Good afternoon, dear colleagues, excellencies. This is about the session on discussing financing of education, and is at the center of our debate today, is at the center of the Paris Declaration. The financing issues in education predated the COVID-19 pandemic, but the health and economic crisis has exacerbated the situation, a crisis within the crisis. In addition to the gap in the volume of financing, there are also concerns about the effectiveness of resources used in education, including for equity and quality. This is why, in this panel, we will debate about how to address the major policy issues: financing, efficiency, and equity. And for this, we have eminent panelists that I would like to call to the stage. Let me start first by His Excellency, Mr. Jean-Michel Blanquer, Minister of Education, Youth and Sport in France. Please, sir. I also would like to invite Mr. Andreas Schlescher, OECD Director of Education and Skills. We have in the panel, we will have by Zoom link His Excellency Mr. Yao Osei Adutu, Minister of Education from Ghana. We will have also Ms. Pari Pangitso, Managing Director of Development Policy and Partnership, the World Bank. We'll be also joined by Ms. Alice Albright, CEO of Global Partnership for Education. We will hear also from Mr. Werner Munoz, Head of Policy, Advocacy and Campaigns of the Global Campaign for Education, former Special Rapporteur on the Right to Education and representative of the civil society. Ms. Kim Jacinto Hernandez, representative of the Working Group on Tax. And I would like to invite Mr. Ludovic Polis, State Secretary, Ministry of Education, Science, Research and Sport of the Slovak Republic. Please, sir, if you can join us. I suggest we start with Andreas to set the scene with a presentation regarding the work that we have conducted together with OECD, the government of France, the Minister of Education, and the team at UNESCO in preparing the discussion today. Please, Andreas. Let me mention 5 takeaways that I think are important for our discussion and that we will be considering going forward, including in the Paris Declaration. First, we called in the discussion today, but also in the background paper, for investing in education within a lifelong learning perspective. It's not only about schooling, it's also about adult learning, it's also about skilling and upskilling and reskilling youth and adult. And in the work we have done, we looked at other reforms that have been established and the attacks on the payroll, and that's the case, for example, in France and other countries where resources are going to apprenticeship, to work-based learning, to upskilling the skills of the workers. A lifelong learning perspective is important. A short-term and a long-term perspective is important. A short-term, looking at how we can leverage the stimulus packages, and we have heard the case of France. We know that there are many countries all over the world that are investing in stimulus packages, but we are worried that the rate and the average is very low. Less than 3% globally is allocated to education in the stimulus packages. Less than 1% is allocated to education when it comes to low and low income countries. The other aspect that we discussed is there is the need for structural reforms. It's about fiscality. It's about looking at the tax system. It's about simplifying, but also looking at how we can earmark more resources for education. But to earmark more resources for education is more need for more resources that have to come to the government and to the revenue. And that's a point that we have looked at. The tax to GDP ratio is one of the important indicators related to that. But there are 2 other important aspects. We need to use efficiently the resources, and it's not only about leveraging and mobilizing resources, it's also about using them in an efficient way, and Andreas has been mentioning that. But something, and I finish with that, something which is very important, is very close to our agenda, to leaving no one behind, is investing equitably in education. Is about leaving no one behind through fair taxation, fair allocation of resources.